Hi, I am April,
And I'm Joe.
and we are
Twice?
the Dice.
Oh, so good.
Well, I had to account for the fact that you decided to take a drink right
Right,
then, and
right.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
there's a delay. Zoom has like this natural, it's completely unnatural, by the way, but this makes sense delay. We're doing this on Zoom, by the way, everybody, because we played a game earlier this morning with the good people at Elderbrain, the folks who created Crown of the Oathbreaker, and we're playing in a campaign with them, and we do this in two different parts of our house. So we thought we'd just do this Q&A for our own show in the same space this time.
yes. And so the takeaway from that is, yes, we are on Zoom in the same house
In the
because that
same house.
technology,
That's
Skynet
right.
is real.
That's
Um,
right.
it's the next step.
That's right.
All right, so Q&A, where we do follow up, kind of like an after session. Are you okay?
I hit my knee under the desk.
We- Are we going?
Ooh,
Are
yeah, no, I'm
we
good. I just hit my knee. Give me a second.
okay?
Oh, I feel like Peter Griffin in Family Guy when he like hurts himself and he's like, ah, ooh.
Ooh.
Okay, I'm ready.
Actually, actually, that makes me think of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. When
Oh yeah, Paul Rubens.
thank you. I was like
Ah,
Pee Wee Herman. You remember Pee Wee Herman when he was in that?
ah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so now you guys should all go watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer the movie.
You know,
Um,
April, I always, it's not a test, but when a lot of times if I'm talking to groups or people and we talk about Texas and they'll bring up, oh, we visited the Alamo, I will often say, yeah, weirdly enough, no basement. And I'm just waiting for like the lights to go off to see who like catches that. Anyway, Pee Wee's Big Adventure reference.
oh,
Please continue.
the only thing I remember about Pee Wee's Big Adventure was Large Marge, and she scared the ever living heck out of me.
Terrifying,
Was it
terrifying.
Large Marge
And
or Big Marge or whatever it was?
I can't remember. It was
She
something
was so
Marge.
scary.
And I
Okay.
know that you don't want to get mixed up with him, Dottie, because he's a rebel. I remember that.
Okay. And dun 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 dun. Okay.
Okay.
Anywho,
All right, let's do it.
so yeah, so this we do the act after our actual play session
Mm-hmm.
of Crown of the Oathbreaker. Each time we get together and we have.
Crown of the Oathbreaker.
I wish I could see how like far in, like how long have we already been talking and
A solid 2 hours. It's been a solid
anyway,
2 hours.
we'll just jump right into it. Of we chat about how things went and we ask questions and we answer
Yes.
questions and yeah, and we invite questions from everybody because we are in AMA. Ask me anything.
Oh yeah, nice Reddit reference.
Yeah, or would it be AUA? Ask
No,
us.
it's AMA. Ask me anything.
I know, but there's two
AU
of us. So
ask you anything, or
yeah,
ask us anything.
that's what I'm saying. It's AUA.
Yeah,
Ask us anything. Now you're getting with the program.
I like.
I'm telling you, I'm
I'm
starting a
on board.
trend.
I'm finally
Okay.
on board.
25 years to get you there. No, I'm kidding.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right. So as you so astutely pointed out, you have
Yeah.
prepared questions and I wing
Oh
it
yeah.
because yeah.
I like how that's officially what we're doing. All right. Well, do you want me to go first since I already have prepared questions, or would you like to
Yes.
go first off the top of your dome?
Yeah. No, why don't you go first?
Okay. Great. Here we go. In 1887, who was the first? No, I'm kidding. Sorry, I don't know why I felt like all of a sudden we were taking like a pop quiz. You ready?
You're getting that look.
All right. No skill checks, no initiative, no dice rolls at all, no math rocks whatsoever. What is it
How long
like?
did it take me to prepare for that session? No.
What is it like running a session like that? And did you expect it would be diceless?
Did I expect it to be diceless? So one of the things for me as a DM, and probably because Are we just
well, it's
gonna
like a burp.
ignore? Are
It
we
was
just gonna
like a
ignore what
burp that
happened?
happened. It was like a burp that happened like in the back of my throat that didn't actually manifest
Huh.
out of my mouth.
Okay, well, I'll take the compliment. Um, so, um, okay, so back to let me start with the part of it that says, like, did I expect there to be no dice rolls?
Hmm.
Um, so when prepping a session, I tend to over prepare with the intent, with the expectation that anything I prepared may not come into play.
Hmm.
Um, specifically and particularly in that session, and maybe not ever.
Right.
And so because it all kind of depends on what player does. And in a group, what the players do. And they may find this interesting, and so they'll stay and they'll linger, and and so we may spend an entire what I thought was going to be 2 to 4 hours or whatever the time limit might be.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And then they could go here and they could go here. And then they stay right here because they're, they've adopted a kobold and are going to teach them to be a wizard. And so from that standpoint, I didn't not expect it to be diceless. And sometimes depending on where the story goes, it's like if it makes sense to call for a skill check, if it makes sense that all of a sudden combat breaks out or whatever happens, or maybe I have some things that it's like, oh, well, if they go here, then this could happen, and that would definitely probably most likely lead to um so to try to make what has already become a long answer short, um I I had prepared encounters that I could have definitely, if you'd have gone those ways or the
Sure.
session had gotten to that point, yes, it would have resulted in dice checks because there would have been a need for it.
Right.
That being said, I'm not saying you didn't do or not do what like enough or get to enough places, but it also just stayed in places where it didn't, the dice weren't telling the story at that point,
Right.
so checks for them weren't required.
That's a really interesting way to say it. The dice aren't telling the story at that point. Um, I guess a follow up to that is, do you enjoy those sessions as much as sessions that have a lot going on and checks and peril and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I'm going to learn my lessons. I'm going to start with a short answer. The short answer is yes, I enjoy those sessions absolutely as much, where the dice are more involved.
Right.
I enjoy role play conversation, interactions with NPCs or between the players or whatever that case may be, as much as you know something that like combat. And I
Right.
keep using that as an example because I think especially
Yeah.
in D&D it's a very very high level one, or navigating traps, or something that is more of a not an interpersonal
Right.
encounter, if you will.
Me too, by the way. I
Oh,
enjoy them
good.
just as much. Yeah.
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 Well, and I mean, I think that's why they show up in ours, is
Right.
because we do enjoy. It's that opportunity. In this case, this session basically consisted of Kel going and looking for answers from a person regarding his own history,
Right.
and also trying to understand these
What's
strange.
going on?
Yeah, right. To peel back the curtain, like if folks, maybe this is the first time they're watching the video, or just to kind of sum up what's happening here. Kel is a paladin, And in D&D mechanic terms, he's actually kind of a little bit of a, he's a fifth level paladin. So
Fifth
he's
level
marched
paladin.
along. But from a character story, and feel free to cut me off here because he's your character,
Mm,
he's a reluctant paladin
hmm.
who has so kind of like a non-traditional, mainly from a like rules as written mechanic standpoint. He's made the oath in his heart,
Right.
but there is not necessarily that connection and understanding to, I am a paladin joining a particular order,
Right.
and therefore I will stand for, something that
Right.
maybe is a little bit more concrete. This is so his abilities as a paladin have come about organically. And, he kind of reaches for the ability to do something because he wants to protect somebody, or he wants to fight off and hurt, something that is trying to do harm. And as those things have happened, his abilities have manifested. So, point of story
Right.
being, this session was Kel going to get information on his own personal history, and that was the backstory with the what happened to his mother, and what part did sign play in that, and then also understanding who he's becoming. And then the other part of it was, and I'm going to go visit my childhood friends and who live in town now and go see what they're up to,
Right.
and so yeah, that's a very you know what's the word I'm looking for there, Joe? Give me words.
It's very narrative.
Just social and,
Yeah, it's very social, very narrative, and even social stuff though can have a ton of roles and all that kind of stuff. And it was very conversational. The whole thing was very conversational, which we love and do quite a bit. Yeah, it's interesting. You brought up that thing about Kel's abilities. I try really hard in the conversation with Sign to relay to Sign the things that he's discovering that he can do without relying on so much the game terms as much as possible, saying, look, I can heal people. And it's come about when he has reached out, Joe using the mechanic of, I'm going to lay hands on this person because I know he has this ability. But in game terms, it would be Kel reaching out to kind of comfort somebody who's hurting and then seeing their wounds close and then realizing I did that, little kind of, I always thought about it like, yeah, it's so funny. Like in the X-Men that as they go, these powers sort of come out. I really wanted them to kind of be revealing themselves like that way, almost reacting to the world around him, but it's actually him initiating these things. He just doesn't fully understand that it's him doing it. So it's been interesting to play a character from that perspective and been a ton of fun. Ton of fun. Yeah.
well, I
Anyway,
think
that
it's
was,
been, oh,
what's that?
no, go ahead, finish up.
Oh, I was going to say that was my question.
Oh yeah. Well, and I was gonna say you playing the um like playing a character that isn't deliberately, even though he is making choices and deciding to do things, but at the same time, it's like I said, it's not I am a paladin for justice and I will
Right.
march forth and whatever has given me these abilities to do. And Kel's not that. And it is I think an interesting idea that you took with him of how to have that emerge. And watching you play it has been pretty fun for me.
Thank you. When we first started putting together a lot of stuff, we talked about his oath.
Mhm.
And I'm sure we've said it now a few times in this, but Kel is an Oath of Conquest paladin, which is a pretty rough oath. It's very intense, like to the point even in the book where they talk about some Oath of Conquest paladins start making pacts with dark forces just so they can have more power to do more stuff. And it can be a very fine line. And I had I had kind of written out and imagined all these different ways he could say his oath. And I kept thinking like, well, when is that moment when he's going to make his oath, right? You're going to say, this is what, and I was surprised that it came out excuse me, even though Kel, I think, had already, obviously, to be an Oath of Conquest paladin, you have to be down that path. And he was in his heart that it's now his approach to how am I going to engage with this and the world. And so he had sort of already made that oath quietly to himself. But the first time he says it out loud, I believe, actually, probably the more pronounced way that he says it is when he tells Sign in episode 3 that, I'm not the kind of person that would put heads on spikes outside of a town, but I am the kind of person who would do that if it keeps the town safe. And that he, and also embodied in the way that he detects evil through that sense, that divine sense, that it smells like, to him, like burning flesh, that it has a cruelty to it. Anyway, so it's been really interesting to play this character and try to play them as grounded as possible.
So I want to ask a quick question there.
Oh yeah, do it. I just got to stop talking. You ask questions.
No, because my questions come up as I'm like, oh yeah. We play it by ear. So you mentioned that to me before, that evil smells like burning flesh. And that is the idea that his divine sense, when it manifests, that's what that's like.
Right.
Is there something specific about the association with burning flesh? Or was it just...
Yeah, I think it's an association with ruin. Internally, I think from a distance and from the outside, Kel looks like a house with all the windows closed and the door closed. And a big sign in the yard that says no trespassing. Right? Internally, he's a house fire. And he absolutely despises when people are pushed down, humiliated. And I don't mean like necessarily even an underdog. It's not like, oh, they're the underdog, therefore I want to go after the big person that's pushed. It's not that. It's cruelty, and specifically abuse of power kind of cruelty is the worst. And for him, it's like the only way to stop that is to absolutely not just destroy it, but salt the earth so that it can't even rear its head, and anyone who comes across it will want to make different life choices because of what could be a possibility for them. It's like, take whatever needs to be done, and then how do we dial that up as far as possible so that there's no chance. Like, that's sort of his approach. Because also at the same time, he's like, if we're going to go do, let's say there's some bad that rears its head, we don't want to do this twice.
Right.
We're going to do it once. And that means that, history, he very much is of the mindset, if things were to go bad or whatever, he doesn't really care how history would look back on him in his life. It matters more to him how he can impact in a good way the people that are in this one.
Right.
He wouldn't care if and I don't know how the campaign's going to go. I have no clue what's going to happen. Not the foggiest. I'm kind of like projecting ahead a little bit. But if things go bad and he has to do a bunch of stuff, if he's looked upon as like, man, that was, it was Kel the Cruel or whatever, people end up calling him, that doesn't matter to him if the job got done and people were safe and things were made okay.
Right.
He would be okay with that. It doesn't mean that Kel's not a fan of cruelty. He's not a cruel person at all. But when it comes to people who are just oppressively just evil and vile, he's like, you have one option, and it is to stamp that out as hard as possible.
Right. So I know you have some other questions, but can I ask one more?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Since we're on kind of that conversation with a sign at the beginning. So I know you said you're not going to ask me what any of the NPCs are thinking, right?
Did they like his outfit?
No, I'm kidding.
Tell me you like my hat.
Shannon, tell me.
Shannon, do you like my hat?
But so they talked about some key things.
Yeah.
And one of those, of course, being Kel finding out what happened to his mother.
Yeah, mama.
And yeah, and for a recap to that was the short story is Kel's mother was essentially propositioned by King Waldron Eisenhower, who's actually the current king, and she rebuffed him. And as a consequence for that, the king had her brought up on false charges of treason and traitorship. And actually, I shouldn't even say false charges. He had her brought up on charges
Right.
that per sign. I think sign even did say that that they were not true,
Right.
and she was imprisoned, and then subsequently died in prison. And this all happened around the time that Kel was about 8. And up until talking to Sign, all Kel knew was his mother had been taken away when he was young, imprisoned for some reason, and never came back. And they didn't talk about it. His father did
Right.
not talk about it, so he didn't know. So now he knows more of the story of his mother's imprisonment, and he knows more about Sign's involvement, awareness, and subsequent. So I
Right.
say all that to say, what was Kel's reaction?
Um, so I don't want to give a cop out answer and say I think I tried to express his reaction, but he, um, he, yeah, I mean, he's angry. He was upset. He wanted to get from Sign very clearly. Did you did you try to help her? And Sign didn't give a good answer to Kel in the first time. It was kind of maybe he didn't want to have to answer that question. And so we asked him again, did you try to help her? And when he expressed that he really couldn't in a way and that he didn't and that he regrets it, and then he talked for a little bit about that regret and stuff. And if there's somebody who understands I didn't do what I should have done and now I'm going to have to carry that with me, Kel definitely understands that. And I think he's probably somebody who, genuine remorse. I think Kel would be good at spotting that. And Sign, he also saw the kindness that Sign had when he soothed his father, took some of his father's pain away. So and he knows him to be a good person. And people change and people have histories and people go through stuff. And you can't, it's like holding someone, defining someone by the worst day they've had kind of thing. And he just felt like, this was so long ago and you've done a lot of good and you've opened up your house to me, and all this kind of stuff. And we're sitting here talking. And he forgave him because Sign wasn't the one that imprisoned him. And he also sees Sign as under the thumb of this king in a way, which is, it's one more thing that, people who are abusive in power situations do is they push everybody down around them. And, so all of his frustration now, any that he had towards Sign just got the rest of it angled off, towards the king. So, he's upset. Of course, that's not anything new. Kel's a very upset person.
Well, and so the other thing that he tried, that he came to Sign for was explanation of
Yeah.
what the flippity flip is happening to me.
Right.
How did he feel about all of that or think about all of Sign's responses?
I think Kel put enough together beforehand to not know what it was from a defined standpoint, but to know there's divine influence here. There's a a choosingness that has happened. Something has decided to, some being, and he has a vague idea of who that might be, has decided to infuse him and lend him these gifts, which he did not ask for, and on the one hand doesn't want, but he's finding himself using them more. So it's a little bit of a battle, but it's a good struggle to have. The obstacle is the way, as they say, and he knows that. But he doesn't know what to think about all that because there was not a definition. Sign was like, well, the path will. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was like, yeah, I think Kel even said, what do I just walk around until something happens? He's like, what do I do? And there's no good answer for that. It's go do. That's what you do. What do? You just go do. Go out into the world and do. But it doesn't mean stay in the inn. It doesn't. It means be there and react and respond. So, he's trying to suss that out. He didn't know what to do with it, but figure it out.
Does he think it's a little bit more than maybe just starting a wagon business back up?
Yeah, he does, and it frustrates him because he's looking forward to the wagon business.
He's like, I know that. All right.
I like a steady job. Look, it's reliable work, but we even saw it in the episode, I think, beforehand, where he tells Arlen, hey, you got all the makings of somebody who can go out there and be, do this adventuring work that exists out in the world. There are heroes out there that do amazing things, and you can do these things. So that's an option open to you. Kel sees himself like, I'm a divorced wagoneer who has shamefully let themselves go over the last year and is now saddled with this influence, possibly from his mother, who was super done wrong. And now he's like, now this is there's some burden now that I got to deal with. He doesn't know why. That's the thing, is it drives him wild. He's like, why? I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. Joe totally gets it. I'm here for it. I mean, I made the character with you, so like I'm really into it. But he's like, why? It doesn't make sense.
Is that a why me, or a why is this needed now, or maybe both?
No, it's not. It's not even greater purpose. It's why me, and what do you want? You don't. My sleep is my sleep. That is not a place for you to come in, and I don't want visions. I don't want prophetic nonsense. I don't want to be to have things pushed on me that I didn't ask for. If something comes my way, I'll deal with it, but I certainly don't need a third party. There's me and there's the world. Now there's a third party coming in here, and he's like, it's 'cause there's only room in here for one, So it's he doesn't know what it is, or he does know what it is because Sign sort of defined it for him, but he's not sure what am I supposed to do with it and why. Really, just why.
Why?
Yep. Is that a good answer?
They are always great answers. There's no wrong answer.
No wrong answers. Just right.
Just inquisitive idiots. No wrong questions. Just inquisitive idiots.
I wasn't going to say it. I have a question for you. It's probably a very short answer. Is the story moving forward at the speed you expect?
So I think we should, anytime it ends with as you expect, we can just caveat and say my answer is always going to be, I really don't expect anything, in sense of, look, the story doesn't happen until it hits the table. So whatever gets put there, is what's gonna go down. Knowing us, that being said, knowing us and knowing how we tend to play through things and how long, and given the not the number of sessions, but the amount of time that we've so far played the campaign, which if you look, this was 3 sessions in, it's 2 hours, 6 hours in. Yeah.
That's true.
We're marching right along, and I guess that is kind of like, this seems like this seems like it. So and that kind of a picture, um, yeah, I think we're
Okay.
marching. We're
Yeah,
marching.
that's true. If we were playing in person, which we typically do, but if it was just us, no cameras, just rolling dice on, we would play for 4, 5, 6 hours. And yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I have one more question for you, but I'm going to turn it over to you for your question.
Um, so I think my next question, so we moved off sign, right? So I was really hyper curious about that. The next thing that I was the other part of it, which
Hmm.
was Beck and Carrie.
Yeah.
And this I think is more as opposed to how Kel feels about like his buddies. Um, so there go the dogs. I think we just got a package delivered. Ooh, what's at the door? Um, I think this is just kind of a what do you think of the them as NPCs is basically, you know, like
Can we
how
break that up? Do you,
right. Well, no, I mean, it really, I know, I was like, I can't wait. But I don't really think I'm asked. It's the question is really just general and broad like that is like, and however you choose to approach the answer, okay, cool, I'll take it. This is basically me going, what's the feedback on the NPCs? Um, do you feel like they're interesting that they and interesting being not that they're like they got secret backstories about that but just
right.
that they're fun for you to interact with as a part of Kel's world and Kel's story. Are they interesting? Do you that's what I think of when I ask the question like do you think they're interesting is are they fun and real and provide and add to the experience you're having in playing this game. How
Yes.
okay.
No, I think they're great. I really like Carrie and Beck. Carrie, it's interesting because we played that backstory where they were
Mhm.
much younger, and their personalities were very different then. Even Beck's a little bit,
Yeah.
and now even though the character has a history of visiting them every once in a while, like every couple of years, it's really rare. He doesn't see them very often, and to really express the rarity of those visits. Imagine that person you run into once a year and you talk for 10, 15 minutes, but you went to school together. You know what I mean? It's like that, but these are his two best friends. These were his best friends. And so it's weird. On the one hand, now we're spending time. We've spent time together on this visit. Sitting down and talking with Carrie for a while. Seeing Beck and like being, yeah, I guess I'm here now. I moved to your town. It's like it's kind of strange. It's funny because Carrie seems different than she did when she was young, and it's cool encountering this older version of Carrie, and then encountering Beck, and they both come across like they've got quite a bit has happened to them, and they've seen quite a bit, and they're only giving me, of course, the very surface level of stuff, and Beck clearly putting on his best hey buddy, right out of the gate. Well, I mean, he's been through some stuff. He's been a guard in this city, and he's probably seen quite a few things and had quite a few experiences that have been really tough. But Beck's not going to put that forward. That's not his personality type. Carrie probably not going to talk about it because she's going to carry that weight on her own for a while, and so it's really interesting. He feels, Kel, when he's around Beck, feels like an old man. And he didn't always, but he does now.
Yeah.
He does now. And he doesn't feel like that around Carrie. He feels like like they're both maybe a little older than they than they should be. But specifically around Beck, he feels like an old man. Like there's this massive span of years. And it's not. It's just the weight of different experiences has been different, and everybody carries theirs differently. So I think they're great. I think they're great, and I think they do exactly what I think good NPCs often can do. They don't all have to do this, GMs out there, but they're also a good mirror for him, which is an amazing thing to be able to have in your NPCs. And like I said, not all of them need to be that way, but Carrie and Beck are two really good mirrors. Pretty interesting. Helps spur growth and movement for a character. I have my last question for you if you're up for it.
I'm totally here for it.
And it happens to be about Carrie and Beck. It really does.
Oh,
I'm going to read it like I wrote it because I had no clue you were going to ask that. We've got people coming back into the story who were part of the backstory. Is there an NPC, a specific NPC, that you were very nervous about doing, and why? If you were nervous at all, is there an NPC you were nervous about portraying, and why?
so the short answer is I'm always nervous about portraying NPCs. And so that being said, I think for this session, bringing back Carrie and Beck, because it was thinking through, okay, well, we've got, since we ran that session in the backstory, when I think you guys were all like late teens, early 20s, something like that. So we're looking at maybe
late
10 years.
teens.
Yeah. So it's like, this has been like 10 years now.
Right.
So it was thinking through, how have they changed? What has their life been? And what are their motivations? And what do they care about? And what are their personalities? And what has kept them connected to Kel?
Right.
Because to me, that was the most important thing, is these are two friends and the only two people that he's maintained any kind of connection with.
Any kind of connection, yeah.
So that's huge. So it's like, well, why? And so part of that is just asking you, well, why is Kel care? But it was also to honor that, I guess, of if that's the right way to say it, of what is it in them that they would maintain that connection. How is that reciprocated? Okay, so Kel kept a connection, but what do they have in them that I can tease out that would have made them want to stay connected?
Right.
And what is the opposite of, like, why do they care about being connected to Kel? Where is that? And what does it mean to be friends? Is, I guess, the question that I was at. And so then, of course, the first time that they're brought in is, okay, well, great. Now I've done all that thinking and trying to build that. Gee, I hope you like them. I hope Kelly likes them. Which, if he didn't, that could have just been, well, that's an opportunity to explore what, because that's there at the table. And
these are your best friends. Like, well, not anymore.
Exactly. And it could have gone that way. It's like, look, I don't know what happened to y'all the last time I saw you or what happened to me, but this is not a friendship I want to pursue anymore. And so it was great to see you. And and it could have gone that way. Right. But I did, want to, but that was my intent, was to kind of think through and come up with that, dynamic, if that's, the other thing. So not every NPC, I'm not a voice actor, like, this is my voice, and I do as much as I can with it. And I do enjoy, as part of the role playing, actually acting out, and as a part of that. And given my limited range,
you're really good at it, by the way.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.
Amazing. You have me in tears so often when doing things, and even just the way you sometimes the way you relay information both through a description and then combined with the behaviors of the world kind of around the character and NPCs and stuff. And it's not always even something the character's going through, but being witness to something someone else is going through. Yeah, you really know how to portray things in a very impactful way. And whether that is through, a kind of a high drama moment or something that's just hilarious or whatever kind of feeling you're trying to get across, whatever intention you're trying to put out, you're very good at it. Very, very, very good at it.
Thank you very much. I will take that and hold that. Hold that. So, but going along on that of the acting out,
Mm-hmm.
Beck is, I know. So, and I think I've told you, just to put the visual image. I had a very clear idea of who I was basing Beck on, and that was the character from Starship Troopers,
Right.
Gary Busey's son, whatever his name.
Right.
And he's like, I mean, and I've even borrowed things where Beck's like, I'm going career.
Yeah.
Career.
Like the biggest giveaway.
But yeah, that's the core of Beck's personality is he's out there and he's brash and he's sometimes can come across as a little obnoxious. But he is true blue and a friend, and he puts his arm around you and he's like, I'm the best friend you're going to ever have. And
Right. It's kind of unquenchable.
He will try to live up to that because he really is. But from a like presenting, I'm like, hey, bruh.
Yeah.
It's like, trying to kind of act that I don't mean to like. Anyway, he's not a hard headspace for me to get into, but I don't know sometimes like the portrayal per se is I think we just have fun with it, and luckily you seem to appreciate any you fill in any gaps.
You have to promise me you have to promise me at some point when they're talking that that if Kel's like, so is it good being in the guard? Oh yeah, that he doesn't at some point look at Kel and go, would you like to know more? I'm doing my part. No, he comes across as very genuine. He comes across as a little nervous too. Like almost like there's this part of Beck that's always projecting out. Like there's another layer to Beck that probably very few people have ever seen, and it's probably just the one that he shows himself. I think he's a fascinating NPC, and I'm a big fan of him. I really like him a lot. And him and Carrie both, they're both so different and so great. And so great together. The three of them together is a cool group.
Yeah.
Is a cool group. Used to be the four of them. But one of them left. Didn't they? We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, I can't tell you, man. I know. I love our chats. I love hearing about, even more about what Kel is got going on and what he's thinking, and even more plans for like next steps. And I know we talk about that kind of stuff of like, well, what does he want to do next? But just the deeper dives into that, and both his and your perspectives, if and when they do, deviate. So I will throw this out. I don't want to do it after every session, but we've had a couple. I don't think I've done this yet. I don't think I've asked it yet.
Okay.
Stars and wishes.
Stars and wishes? You're talking about like what I would like to see happen versus what did I love?
Yeah. So stars, yeah, stars
Did
are
I do
what
that
would,
right?
yeah, stars. What put
Uh,
stars in your
um,
eyes? What did you really love? And then wishes is, what would you like what would you like if
yeah,
you could wish for?
I I love the autonomy in deciding his time. When there's an open sandbox, of things you can go do. There's direction. Things are, I know. Hey, we need to go talk to Sign. Need to go visit Carrie. Need to go visit Beck. So it's not really much of a sandbox, except that it is in the way that I want to approach the day, and what we say and how the conversation goes and the approach and just every aspect of it, because it's gaming and that's how that works. But I appreciate that I'm having an opportunity to experience different aspects of the character through these different conversations and seeing how he's going to react to these different people, where you've got Sign, who is in a position of incredible authority, but it's an authority that, he's letting his guard down around this person that he has a very strong shared history with, without there being a lot of direct history between the two of them. It's really fascinating. Sign and Kel's family have a long history together, but Kel and Sign have a very limited history together. But now here they are in the living room. It's wild. It was wild. That was super cool. And I think his desire to do the games, he didn't have to do that. But then, like, how am I going to do that? Oh, okay, what do I need to do that? Oh, the Beck, and then this. And I appreciated the amount of, for lack of a better word, the freedom to approach the day, but in a way that felt very organic. And a big part of that is letting things have time to marinate. On the one hand, I don't want to wake up and then just kind of, you just tell me when I get there. No, I want to ride in the carriage. I might want to say something to the carriage driver. And you do one of the many amazing things you do as a DM is you stop and you go, all right, what do you do? And give me plenty of time, and if it's conversations, okay, then we're having conversations. It's more about, you make it so much about what's happening now versus what's the next thing we have to get to. And because you make it about what's happening now, it feels personal and it feels like a character and it feels like a story that's happening and it feels like cooperative. We talk about like it's a shared narrative in a sense, only in a small way, just because I'm affecting some of the choices that are made by the character, but it feels like shared time, like we're doing this together. And that's amazing. I think at its best, that's the best that gaming gets, is when it feels like it's something that you're all doing together. And you do an amazing job of having that be the case. I don't know what you do to create that feeling, but that's what it's like playing with you, is it feels like it's something we're doing together. And it feels like my choices matter. And I love that. I really love that. It makes me think a lot more also about my choices. Anyway, you're amazing. I've already said that a million times. Wishes, I can honestly say things I would love to see Kel do. I don't know that I have any.
Perfectly
I really
okay.
don't. I think I'm just really loving how all this is going. And I mean, like, I've seen the cover of the book. I know some stuff happens. I don't know what it is, but it's very clear that it's not all, what are we doing today in Oathbreaker? But I'm loving taking the time to get to know the city without being just dragged into a quest. I love that the menace is getting sprinkled in even more, and you can kind of sense the underlying tones. And even, talking about things, something's coming, things are happening. I'm not in any rush to get to that. I'm just really enjoying the build that we're doing. And I think it's moving along. I asked you, do you think the story's moving along at a good pace? I think it's moving along at a great pace. an amazing pace. It's like perfect pace. If I was going to read a book, this is the way I like to read a book. I want to get to know the characters, before I just know how hard they can hit things. Although that's very interesting too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You just want
No,
to know them more so that you care more about them.
yeah.
I like the character more now than I did when we first made him.
Well, that's the best. Yeah. That's the best way for character progression to go is, am I more interested in, do I like my character
Right.
now more than when I created him and wrote his
Right.
backstory? Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
They're the campaign they're in is yeah, it's interesting. You talk about mention the backstory. Then there's a lot of times, like sometimes you game with folks where they're or you make a character yourself where the backstory you have is far more interesting than the than the adventure you're part of. But that is truly just way in the back very quickly because the world is so vibrant and it's amazing what you've put together. So, and hats off to
Um,
the Elderbrain people for building
yeah.
such a cool place to play.
I was gonna say, yeah, that is definitely. I have a I hope I've done justice in bringing it to life, making it unique and fun for for you and our play style, and also, but specifically the character you've brought to play in this, and and create the story. But yeah, the source material of what's in that book, I have a lot of fun with. So yes, tip of the hat to Elderbrain and their awesome creators, because the awesome creation that they've done in Crown. And that being said, we said this Q&A would be shorter, so I'm
Initially,
not
we
going
were
to take all
like,
the
we're
blame.
in and out in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you talk just as much as he did. I was paying attention, so I don't take all the blame.
Teamwork. It was teamwork. We did it together.
It's teamwork for us to like talk a lot. I
Yeah,
like
we did it. Next
you.
time will be shorter.
Uh-huh. Yep. That and ifs and
But it's
if
wishes and
ifs and buts were wishes and
every
buts, we'd all have a
every
merry, yeah.
day. Yeah, every day would be New Year's Eve. Um, Thanks for watching this, y'all. Thanks for being here. Thanks for checking out our channel. Thanks for checking out Twice the Dice. Please make sure you subscribe, like, all that good stuff, all the words, all the things. And if you have questions, the things you want to know about the campaign, either from a player perspective or from a GM perspective, are we saying GM or DM?
Okay, 6 of 1. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're all this. We're calling it Bookmaster. We're BMs.
Bookmaster,
No, we're not
the
BMs.
book boss, the book, the book boss. It's the book boss.
It's
Anything
the
you want to know
BB.
from a player perspective or a book boss perspective, yeah, let us know, and we will be happy to answer them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. We hope you'll join us for the next exciting session of Crown
Crown of the Oathbreaker.
the Kill Edition.
No, it's not.
And if you're interested in checking out your own copy, link below to Elderbrain or their other fine projects. So yeah, see you next time. Bye.
Bye.